heating and cooling. It's a Mitsubishi mini split system. It is a 3-zone unit. So outside is 1 single unit. Inside is 3 mini split heads or zones, wall-mounted heads. And you can see right there is one of them. So if you're looking at the back wall, this is the left one, and the right one is placed symmetrically on the other side of that same wall. The third zone is upstairs in the loft, and I did move my office upstairs in the loft after the spray foam, and with the spray foam and these mini splits going, it's perfect in here as far as the climate control, as far as I'm concerned. So the system itself is a 36,000 BTU system, and I just used some online sizing calculators to figure out what I thought I needed, and then I talked to a local HVAC contractor with a good reputation to come. He came out, did some measurements, and went back and did some calculations, and basically told me that this is the system that matches my space, which is basically the exact same size as I calculated. So we went with that, and it is a AC and heat pump unit. So when I installed my mini split in my last shop, I was under the impression that heat pumps can't really heat when it gets below freezing outside. And the one that I had in my last shop, it pretty much struggled to heat that space when it was below freezing outside. These particular units, this one is rated to heat down to 5 degrees Fahrenheit outside, which in Mississippi, that's plenty acceptable. I think we had maybe three nights last winter that got below freezing. So we have very mild winters here. Our summers are brutal, but our winters are very mild. So heating down to 5 degrees Fahrenheit, that's acceptable for my area. If you are further north, Mitsubishi actually also has an inverter system. I don't know what all this means, but I do know that it will heat at maximum efficiency down to negative 13 degrees Fahrenheit. So that was just very interesting to me because I was under the impression that these heat pump units aren't efficient below freezing. So a little bit of information if you're in the northern states or northern part of if you're in a cold climate. So that covers my mini split system. How does it work in here after it's all said and done? The worst case scenario for where I live, which we had it last week, is not a cloud in the sky, high 90-degree temperature, and the sun just baking a dark roof. That's the worst case scenario for where I live. And during that scenario, we had it last week as well as, throughout the entire summer. Before the spray foam was installed, I used one of these infrared thermometers to take some readings on the interior side of the roof, and the highest I saw this was 125 degrees Fahrenheit, that's pretty darn hot. That's a lot of surface area to be 125 degrees, baking the space inside. So after the spray foam was installed, the highest I saw this since then is 83 degrees. And that was, again, on not a cloud in the sky kind of a day, about 2 p.m. on the sunny side of the roof. It's the highest I've seen the temperature. With that said, these mini split systems in that scenario are completely cooling the space just fine. I have them set on 75 and they stay, not right now, I've got them, as a matter of fact, right now during the video, I've got them set on 70 with the fan speed wide open because I kind of want to see how it sounds on camera. With those going wide open, I want to know if it's really loud. And I haven't recorded anything while they're going wide open, so that was kind of an experiment today. But just giving myself a little bit of a break to hear the audio. Anyway, with these set on 75, it stays about 76, 77 degrees in here. Upstairs, because heat rises, is about 3 or 4 degrees hotter. Not a big deal at all. When I run my air cleaner cart, which is basically all the time when the camera's not running, then the temperature upstairs and downstairs, there isn't much of a change. That's because the air cleaner cart fires air up on a 45-degree angle. So not only does it circulate air around the perimeter of the shop, but it also, due to its position, but it also circulates air top to bottom. So mini splits work really, really well. And part of that is because of the spray foam insulation, which I've already touched on. Spray foam insulation, I went with closed cell and a 2-inch thick spray. This stuff was charged, they priced it at $1.96 a board foot. So basically twice the square footage, and then multiply that by $1.96, and that's how much it cost for me to install this, or have it installed rather. So prep work for the spray foam. The day before, me and a friend of mine came through here and used some very inexpensive, very, very thin plastic sheeting and covered basically everything but the floor. We went around the perimeter and I just stapled the plastic to the header that is on top of the walls, holding up the trusses. And then after that was done, I came back with some smaller sections and just draped it over all of the lights and little stuff here and there. It took about a couple hours, no big deal. But I think that they were actually going to do that. I didn't discuss this with the contractor at all, but I think they were going to do that because they came, when they first got here, they started unloading some plastic sheeting, and they ended up just throwing it all over the floor because I already had everything else covered. That stuff is messy. There is a tremendous amount of overspray, and it does a good job though. I'm getting a little lost here. After it was done, I allowed the proper amount of time for it to off gas. Then I came back and pulled down all the plastic, and then had to sweep and sweep and sweep and sweep and sweep and sweep because there was this stuff everywhere, the little balls of foam that just stuck to the plastic and then flaked off. But they had the whole setup. They had a couple guys in full suits spraying this stuff. They got here at 8 a.m. I think they were supposed to be done around noon-ish to go to a second job for the same day, but they did have one gun malfunction. I think that's what they said, upstairs in the loft, so it slowed them down quite a bit. And due to the malfunction, they said the spray foam was completed properly. It's all cured and all that stuff, but they weren't able to get it to look as good as they wanted in one area of the loft, which I don't care how it looks, I really don't. That being said, it turned out good as far as I can tell, as far as the looks go. It is a lighter colored, creamy off-white, so a lot of light does get bounced around and reflected, so it just makes this open space feel even more open. I don't know what else to say about the spray foam. It's just absolutely worth it. It was absolutely worth it. Now, I only did 2 inches of spray foam. I forget the R value of that. It's closed cell. But it does a really good job of keeping the sun at bay. And I don't need to make this thing like, you know, insanely insulated. I just want it to be comfortable in here where the mini splits aren't absolutely going crazy, which they're not. So that's covered. And also, if I want to, say, double up the insulation next year or 2, 4 or 5, whenever, all I gotta do is tarp it up again and have them come out and spray it. It's a very, very painless process. What else is there? Oh, so the last thing on the list is the doors. Right now when I'm recording this video, I still have the original roll-up doors installed. But I did order some, I think there are 10.5 garage doors. So they're going to have tracks just like a typical garage door will. The tracks will be below the trusses. They're not going to interfere with the lights at all. And those doors are insulated, like I said, but they also have one full panel of windows on both doors. Now, the windows are something that I really, really want for me to be able to see out, because right on the other side of the shop is my driveway, and I want to be able to see when people pull in. So there's that. The windows in those doors are slightly insulated, if I'm not mistaken. They're not going to be as efficient as, say, like the actual insulated panels. But I am going to tint the windows with one-way window tinting, so one-way window film, so you can see out but not see in, and it blocks a lot of the UV rays and all that stuff. I'm going to tint the windows here on the side of the shop as well, just for the cut down on the UV transfer, the sun coming in. So the doors, they're ordered. They're going to be installed early next week, if I'm not mistaken. I still have to finalize that, but that's the last piece of the puzzle as far as anything major going on in the shop. Hopefully that answers all your questions. I know a lot of people are gonna ask about the cost of those three things because it's the biggest, like, if the shop is this expensive, that much of it is what's covered in this video. They were really expensive as far as I'm concerned, but also really, really worth it. If you run a small business, you know how important it is to invest back into that business so you can